at the brewery.
Hey.
Can you tell us a little bit about the brewery?
Sure. We opened in August of 2004, sold our first beer. Obviously, we do bottling, as you can tell by some of the other videos. That's roughly 2/3 of our production, and then a third in kegs. We specialize in dark beers. Milk Stout is by far our top seller.
That's the one we carry in our
Okay, you guys. Okay, that's one you have. Yep. That's about half of our production is the Milk Stout. And then we have 3 others that are available year-round. The Amber Ale, which is what we're bottling right now, our Brown Ale, and a Porter. And then we have seasonals. You know, they change around during the season. We have 7 of those. And actually, after we finish with the Amber today, we'll start bottling Schwartz beer, which is the current season.
Okay. Can you tell us about the Milk Stout?
Yeah, the Milk Stout is it's a traditional English sweet stout with lactose and milk sugar. And the idea is brewer's yeast can't metabolize complex sugars, can only metabolize very simple sugars. So the lactose remains intact, doesn't get broken down, gives sweetness and kind of full body on the palate, and you know, it's delicious.
What kind of food does it go best with?
Well, so I think it goes great with roast meats. You know, the dark roasted grain goes really well with like steak and burgers and that kind of thing. We've also, when we've done beer dinners and whatnot, found that pairing it with like a chocolate dessert really works really nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You started it, right?
I did. I'm the founder of the brewery. Had worked at several breweries before this. You know, just kind of always looking for an opportunity to start my own place. And finally, it seemed like the stars were aligned, and you know, I felt like I could convince the bank to let me money, and they did. Before that, I was a university philosophy professor. That was my job before I became a brewer, which was awesome, but this is better. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it.
So, will you show us around?
Yeah, of course. So, this is the brew house, right? It starts with milling grain here. So we'll take barley malt, run it through the mill to break it open, expose the starchy endosperm. That's where we're going to get the majority of the sugars that will be converted to alcohol, carbon dioxide, and of course where you get the beautiful flavors and whatnot. So mill it here. It goes into a holding vessel there that's just sort of so we can get a head start on the milling. Then it augers up that white tube you see there. Inside there, it looks like a spring that turns and pulls the grain up to mix with hot water at the top. You can climb up there if you want. The grain will come in here. We have water coming through here. We can monitor the flow, how much water we're putting in, and of course the temperature of the water. Mixes in this with the grain as it falls down. While that's happening, you know, a brewer's up here with a paddle, making sure everything gets evenly distributed across the bottom. The point here is to activate enzyme systems that occur naturally in the grain to break down long chain starches into shorter chain sugars. Again, as I mentioned before with the Milk Stout, the brewer's yeast can only metabolize very simple short chain sugars. So we get those by the action of the enzymes in the grain. After it's steeped in here, and we've got that conversion, we'll strain the liquid. There's like piping on the bottom. We can go down and look at that too. We'll strain it and pump it over into this vessel, which is our boiling kettle. So this is fitted with steam jackets. We have a boiler that will pump steam into the jackets, bring it up to a boil. Once it's up to a boil, we'll add hops. And then with most of our beers, we'll add hops again later in the process for aroma and some of the kind of subtler flavors. But it boils in there. When it's done boiling, let's go down and when it's done boiling, we'll pump it through a heat exchanger to cool it down. So we'll cool it down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, from boiling to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. For us, 620 gallon batch, which is a normal batch for us, will take about half an hour to cool down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty quick. And pump it into one of the tanks that have the cone-shaped bottoms. Those are the fermenters. Add yeast in that tank, and 9 times out of 10, that yeast is coming from a batch that's already done fermenting. These tanks are all fitted with glycol water and propylene glycol mixture that acts as an antifreeze. So the tanks are always kept at whatever temperature we want. For our ales, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. For a lot of wheat, for our standard ale, and then we'll drop the temperature to 30 degrees Fahrenheit for cold conditioning and maturation. Before we filter it, once it's filtered, we touch up the carbonation, and then we do what you see us doing here right now, package it. Yep. Every brewery, I mean, there's some similarities, right? Everybody's got cone-shaped fermenters, and bigger or smaller, whatever. But yeah, every brewery, depending on what they do, and how old their equipment is, how much money they had when they bought their equipment. We didn't have much.
You decide to focus on dark beers, what are your favorite?
Yeah, well, I love them. And when we started, I really felt like there weren't enough dark beers in the Southeast. I thought it was a way to serve an underserved market, I thought. The traditional, the kind of conventional wisdom is that it's so hot in the Southeast that people aren't going to want dark beers. But we found that's not true. I mean, our milk stout all year round, even in the hottest part of the year, that's the one that wins. So, yeah. At the end of the line here, where you see these empty bottles, obviously we're loading empty bottles on the table. There's, you see all the studs on the conveyor chain there. It's soap, and it acts as a lubricant. It's just a way to make sure that the bottles slide easily on that chain, so they'll tend to fall over less with that soap. They go into that first machine, which, as you can kind of see, picks them up and tips them upside down, and then it shoots a jet of water in there. It's just rinsing the bottle, shakes it around a little and turns it back over, puts it on the conveyor chain to go over to the filler. The filler, of course, turning round and round. That bowl is full of beer, that big round bit on top. The sound you hear, that chunk, 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 that's a pump pumping beer up into that bowl. It just keeps it always full. The bottle, as it goes around, the first thing that happens is it trips a sensor that activates a vacuum pump that sucks the air out of the beer. Right after the air is sucked out, it pressurizes it with carbon dioxide. We want to fill in as close to a pure CO2 environment as we can, and that's a shelf life thing. Oxygen in air will tend to make the beer taste stale over time. So the better we can eliminate contact with air, the longer the shelf life before it starts tasting stale. The good news is no known human pathogens have been found to be able to exist in beer. So as it gets old, it's not like anything's going to happen that's going to make you sick, but it'll just start tasting bad. So we pull the air out, pressurize it with carbon dioxide, then fill, of course, open a valve to let beer into the bottle. As soon as it's filled, it comes around, and there's a little jet, a tiny little sharp jet of water that shoots into the top of the bottle to make it foam. And the idea of that is that happens right before the crown is applied to the top. That foam helps us to ensure that the head space is carbon dioxide instead of air. Even just in the little distance from the filler over to the crowner, you're going to get air in that head space, and we want to try to push that out, with the foam. Then, so that white hopper that you see going up and down, that's full of crowns. That's applying the crown to the top of each bottle as it comes down. The bottle then goes through a little shower. Because we did that foam thing, the outside of the bottle is all sticky and stuff, so we just wash that off through that little shower. Then it lines up waiting to get labels applied to it. That's this next machine. As soon as it gets the label, Matt packs them into boxes, stacks them onto the pallet, waiting for the truck to come.
Yeah, awesome.
And that's how it works when everything's working properly.